And welcome in to Tennessee Tuesday. Today is Tuesday, November the 18th. And I'm John Blankenship, your host, joined by the one and only Jason Shears. And Jason, tonight, we'll go ahead and let our audience know as we first jumped in, this is a pre-recorded episode of Tennessee Tuesday, as we're both tied up a little officially. So we wanted to have a new episode for you tonight. A good story we're going to talk about that you've seen in the title tonight is Sam Davis. He is the boy hero of the Confederacy. Of course, he is a hero to Tennesseans, and you're going to tell his story. We're going to show some photographs, and also we'll be talking about some other events that have been happening in the Tennessee division of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, and we also have some events coming up, so we'll be talking about some of those tonight here on Tennessee Tuesday. So welcome into the program. Thank you for being with us tonight. And Jason, how you been?
Been well, doing very well. Just been real busy. Been on the road. This past weekend, I was down in Jacksonville, Florida. As you know, the Kirby Smith Camp 1209, they were able to get back. It was very much a SCV success. They were able to get back the Florida Confederate Soldiers Monument. Wow. And they put it up in Kirby Smith Park there in Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. They had a dedication of it on Saturday. I was there. Commander-in-Chief Donnie Kennedy was there as well. It was a great turnout.
Yeah.
And it was, of course, the weather was gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes. Down in Jacksonville, it was about 82, 83 degrees. Little light breeze going, felt great. So
a great time in Florida in the Sunshine State. That's right, isn't it? Sunshine State.
Yes, sir. And the weekend before that, I was down in Andersonville, Georgia, for the 50th anniversary of the Captain Henry Wirtz Memorial.
Yeah, lots of stuff.
The A.H. Stevens Camp down in Americus and the United Daughters of the Confederacy, they do a fantastic job with that memorial service. And I tell you, it was an honor to be there.
Well, sounds like you and Linda have been busy. Y'all have been all over the South. And Jason, you did. I missed that invitation to go and hang out with you in Florida. I must have missed that email or text.
No, I might have forgot to send it.
I see how it is. But it looks like you had a good time and dedicated a monument. A great work to the Kirby Smith camp down there and the work they've done.
Yes. And I know everybody sees the background that is quite a bit different. We're still doing work on our house here. They're going to be putting in the windows, so I'm having to change places. You're going to see me change places because if you were on Thursday night, because I did look around on Thursday and did Tennessee Tuesday this past Tuesday and was on look around Thursday. You notice this is completely different than before. And now we're trying to work out this deal where it has me completely whitewashed, but you're going to see this. So if you look and you say, hey, look, yes. And this is all going to be changing because over the next couple of months, working on my library, and it's going to be, that's where my permanent setup is going to be. So you're going to see me change a lot over the next month or so.
So we're getting a tour of the Boshears mansion and estate, right?
I wouldn't call it mansion or estate. How about we call it a humble abode?
Well, it looks nice. I see you're in the dining room right now. No dinner. So we missed dinner or no dinner being eaten in there?
Well, there will be a dinner eaten as soon as we get through recording.
There you go. Well, again, thanks for being with us tonight. And we've got that disclaimer, of course, on the screen. Jason, you want to go through our disclaimer with us tonight?
Oh, yes, sir. The views and opinions expressed on this broadcast are not those of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, its General Executive Council, or any division, brigade, camp, or any other subsidiaries. Point blank, this is what this means is whoever says their opinion, it is their opinion and only the person that is speaking it. Now, if you wish to chime in and agree with it, that is also your opinion. But Absolutely. It is not the opinion of the Sons of Confederate Veterans or any of its camps or associates. So just want to go with that and let everybody know.
Well, we've got several things tonight to talk about. We're going to jump in here in just a few moments. We're going to kind of lead into the story here. We'll take a quick break, Jason, as you kind of intro into the story of Sam Davis and what we'll be talking about. We'll come back and do the full story with some photographs and tell you about Sam Davis and his death and his life, but also years after his death, what was done in Tennessee. So that's going to be happening as well tonight. And we'll take that first break. We'll come back and we'll talk a little bit more, Jason, if that's all right with you.
Perfect. Let's do it.
Let's go ahead and take our first break. We'll come back and we'll talk about our sponsors as well here on Tennessee Tuesday on SCV Chat.
There is a place nestled in the rolling farmland of southern Middle Tennessee. A home constructed in 1837, nearly lost to the ravages of war. Saved by a servant and a Confederate general. A place where families loved and lost. If walls could talk, what stories could be told? If a place, a home, can feel love, loss, pain, surely this is one of those places. Nearby is a more recent structure, and inside are the stories of heroes and heroines, stories of battles won and lost, stories of sacrifices made by the people of its native soil. A place that will tell the true and complete story of the Southland and the war fought for its freedom. From the causes that led to the conflict to the modern-day struggles to protect Southern history. Historic Elm Springs and the Confederate Museum at Elm Springs are the general headquarters for the Sons of Confederate Veterans. A place where the story of the Southland and its historic struggle is preserved and told. Come and discover your history.
And welcome back into Tennessee Tuesday. John Blank and Jason Boshears here with you this evening, and we're glad to be here on a Tuesday night. By the way, this is a pre-recorded edition of Tennessee Tuesday, as we recorded this on Monday night. So if you're watching live, we recorded it last night. We wanted to make sure we had a new show for you, especially since there's an event coming up this weekend at the Sam Davis home in Smyrna, Tennessee. It will be the annual memorial service, and we wanted to talk about that this evening and really tell the story of Sam Davis for folks that may be watching. It's never been to Tennessee, to the Sam Davis home, Jason, that may not get the opportunity to do so. They're going to kind of get to hear a little preview of what you'll be talking about this weekend with his story. And there's some important sites in Tennessee as well connected with Sam Davis. So, Jason, I'm going to kind of turn it over to here for you just a little bit to kind of lead in, and we'll show some photographs along the way.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. I want to thank everybody for joining in. Let's go ahead and set the plate. Okay. October 6th, 1842, Sam Davis comes into this world. That's a picture of him. He is, this is right around the beginning of the war. You're looking, a lot of people talk about him when they talk about his brother Oscar, how they looked a whole lot alike. There's quite a little bit of years, I want to say 4 years between him and Oscar. And Oscar plays into this story as well. Born October the 6th, 1842, and you think about the environment in which they were brought up in. There was no TV, there was no internet, there was no cell phones, there were none of that to keep people occupied. So people would have supper, and then they would sit around and they would talk. If it was a nice evening, they'd sit on the front porch, and they would. He spent his years hearing the stories of his ancestors, the ones that fought in the American Revolution, the ones that fought in the War of 1812, the ones that fought in the Mexican War, and the ones that were fighting in the Indian Wars. And he had heard all of these stories. And yes, that is the Sam Davis home that is in Smyrna, Tennessee, during the month of November. That is the month in mourning, and if you go there now, you will see the mirrors covered, because if you a house that was in mourning, they had black drapes covering or black cloths that were covering all of the mirrors, and Sam laid in state within that house. You go in the front door of that house, and you go off to the right. That's a picture of it as well. That picture, that tree is no longer there. It got tore up in some damage with the wind that we had. Plus, it got a blight and was dying, and we had to cut that tree down. So, unfortunately, we lost that. But the tree that witnessed Sam tying his horse to it and the rock beside of it, that is still there. Okay. He did not tie to that tree. He tied to a tree that is across the drive. But you listen to the war drums being sounded. He was already in a military academy. This is in 1860. He left the military academy. He went and he joined the Rutherford Rifles. That was in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, Rutherford County. He then joined, that was merged into the 1st Tennessee, and he was sent east. And his first battles were under Robert E. Lee in Virginia. And remember, at that time, the war was never coming west. It was never coming over the mountains, over the Blue Mountains. But as we know, it did. Yeah. And Sam come west and ended up fighting at Shiloh under Albert Sidney Johnson. He was in the infantry, and he was wounded there, but he healed up over that. And then he ended up going into Kentucky, where he was wounded. Now, there's not a lot of details on exactly how bad the wound was or exactly where in the lower extremity it was. We know that it was either a knee, calf, foot, or ankle. We do know that it was that, and he was not able to be in the infantry anymore. Now, Sam being brought up on the home that you see there, Sam's father bought that home right there, bought it, and Sam moved there when he was about 5 years old. So Sam was essentially brought up into this house, and it was had quite a bit of land to it. And the family, he grew up on the farm, grew up working the
Mm-hmm.
farm, grew up with horses, and he had a half brother named John. Sam's father had remarried after his first wife passed, and Sam was their first child together. It was she was Sam's firstborn child, and she was very partial to Sam, as you can imagine, being that. But John, his half brother, well, John Kennedy was the caretaker of the home,
Sure.
and but his half brother was very much he was already in the Coleman Scouts. Now, the
Is he
Coleman
the one
Scouts,
that's also pictured in the image with Sam, the full image?
no, sir, that's Oscar.
That's Oscar in the image.
Yes, that's Oscar. Yes, it's John. Let's see. Now that there's several pictures, and a couple of them have been misused and they don't have them exactly right, because the half brother was quite a bit older. Sam going in when he was 18 years old. His half brother, already a member of Coleman Scouts. Now, Coleman Scouts, the moniker he went by was E. Coleman. His real name was Henry B. Shaw.
Yeah.
And after Sam got wounded, his half brother approached him about joining, because he knew he was a good horseman. Mm-hmm. He had worked with him on the farm, and he said, would you care anything about becoming a scout? And Sam ended up joining the Coleman Scouts. It was not Sam's first piece where he was, what the Scouts were. And there's a lot of people want to confuse Scouts with bushwhackers and all this other stuff. They actually carried correspondence. Mm-hmm. And, they would gather intel and they'd gather information, and they spent their time behind enemy lines. Riding. And we'll talk about where we are in the month of November right now. Okay, Sam, it was not his first one, his first ride. He was running the scout line that was going from Eastern Kentucky down to Decatur, Alabama. Mm-hmm. And he was given yes. Now that's the half brother that is on the right. See, that's a different picture than the one I thought you were referring to. Yes. Yeah. That's the half brother and Sam right there.
Okay.
And that was taken at the very, very beginning of the war. And this Sam's story, when it starts to think about this time, here we are in November, it gets a little. Let's set here we are. We're on the 17th. We're recording this. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is going to be played on the 18th. We're now looking at Sam's last night at freedom.
Yeah,
is what we're looking at. Sam we'll start at the time that he was captured, which was in the afternoon of November the 20th, mm-hmm. and he was captured. So the night before, he had been traveling, okay, which makes it the night of the 19th. Okay. Mm-hmm. The afternoon of the 18th, he met E. Coleman, Henry B. Shaw, in Campbellsville, Tennessee, mm-hmm. and got the paperwork
which is a little north of Pulaski. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Right mm-hmm. now it is Highway 66 between Mount Pleasant and Pulaski. Mm-hmm. And so he met him, and he ended up getting the papers that sealed his doom. He got them on the afternoon of the 18th, afternoon and evening of the 18th. Now, remember, scouts traveled at night. They would generally find a place to, mm-hmm. as they say, hole up during the day, to where mm-hmm. they would not, it was hard to travel. This was all federal occupation.
Yeah, so at night you're less likely to be seen. Makes good sense. You wouldn't be seen at night. It'd be easier to travel.
Oh, yes, sir. So when they captured Sam on the afternoon of the 20th, he was in Minor Hill, Tennessee. So he had rode because he got the paperwork on the afternoon of the 18th, and he spent the night there in Campbellsville. And he left out very early in the morning of the 19th, rode for a little while, holed up during the day, rode to Minor Hill, and was there during the night of the 19th and the morning of the 20th, and that's where he was caught. Okay, so on the 18th, he gets the paperwork. Then that was in Campbellsville. The night before, he had been riding between Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and there in Campbellsville. And that was the last night, because that night was the last night he come to the Sam Davis home, where he come to his parents' home. So you're talking tonight.
Yeah.
The 16th. On the night of the 16th, when we're recording this, and Sam rides up to he's on his run, and this is before he ever gets the paperwork.
Yeah.
He rides up to his parents' home. It is during the night. He ties his horse to that tree that we mentioned earlier. Yes. The parents' bedroom is on the side of the house. In fact, you had a picture of the side of the house.
Show that one there. There you go.
Yes. The second window from the left, that was where Sam knocked on the window. So Sam tied his horse to the tree that was across the drive. There's a rock there's a stone that is there that has a tablet on it that marks it. And Sam walks over and he taps on his parents' window. They let him in. His dad fixes his boot because his boot's starting to come apart. His mama feeds him. His half-brother Oscar had found a federal Union overcoat.
Okay.
He had brought it home, and Sam's mama had dyed it brown with walnut holes. Now, we know this because the Sons of Confederate Veterans, Tennessee Division, provided the funds to restore and preserve Sam Davis's overcoat and his boot, the same one that I'm talking about that his father repaired. That the Federals end up cutting open and pulling out the paperwork that had the letter that really sealed Sam's death. There was a letter from from E. Coleman to Braxton Bragg. And in that bundle of paperwork that was in his sack, that was rolled up in his blanket, in his quilt, was the paperwork that came from Granville Dodge's desk. So this was one that, this is not paperwork that you have 2 or 3 or 4 copies of. This paperwork actually came from Granville Dodge's desk. And Sam was captured with that. But we'll talk about where he's going to be tonight, the night of the 16th. He is visiting with his family for the last time.
Yeah.
And this is a real special time. And when John asked me to do this, I'm actually very humbled to talk about this, because I'll be talking about it, and I'll be doing the full capture, trial, and execution on the 22nd, because they've asked me to do that from the gravesite. But so you're looking, Sam gets this last time he visits home. He talks to his parents. He gets fed. He gets that Union overcoat. The Union overcoat plays a huge story into this, because when they put him on trial, they put him on trial for saying that he was dressed in the clothes of the enemy. I'm going to talk about the hypocrisy that we're dealing with at that time, because, we'll set up. He spends the night of the 16th with his parents, and he leaves early in the morning, and he goes and he holes up somewhere for the day. Then he rides to Campbellsville. and he gets the paperwork there, and he spends the night in Campbellsville. Then he rides, leaves out early in the morning, rides so far. Then he, during the afternoon of the 20th, he is, during the early morning hours of the 20th, he's in Minor Hill, and he is now resting in a group of plum trees. You can go to there right now, and you can see there is a marker that is there that marks as the capture site of Sam Davis. The men that rode up to him, there were two men dressed as Confederate soldiers. Dressed as Confederate soldiers. We know this because, well, I'll go and tell you about the trial they put him under. It actually said in the trial that they admitted that they were wearing Confederate soldiers' uniforms.
Yeah.
They rode up to Sam. Now, some people have said, well, Sam was asleep. But I don't know exactly what transpired during those moments to where Sam allowed them to ride up on him. I have no idea. We can only speculate at this moment, but they were dressed as Confederates. And they said, well, you need to come with us into Pulaski. Well, that's just outside Pulaski, because we need to bring you in the Confederate Army, and you need to meet the major, the captain that we have there. And we'll get to that in just a very few moments. I'll tell everybody what that is. That is the courthouse in Pulaski the morning of Sam Davis's hanging, which was Friday, November 27th. So he was captured. They rode up to him. This is the afternoon of the 20th. He goes to ride into town with them. As he's riding into town with them, Sam gets that funny feeling that something's up. He goes to bolt, take off in his horse. He had a very good, very fast horse. They knew this. They could sense it. They reached over. One of them grabbed the reins on his horse. Sam pulled for the pistol. The other one reached over and grabbed Sam's pistol to keep him from pulling it. Sam had just got captured by the 7th Kansas Cavalry, the Jayhawkers. Federal soldiers dressed in Confederate uniform. They took him into Pulaski. They take him into Pulaski. He stands in front of Granville Dodge, the Federal General Granville Dodge, because they start to search him, and they start finding this paperwork, the things that I was talking about. Now, Granville Dodge is in a whole lot of trouble at this point because the paperwork that he had in his blanket roll came from Granville Dodge's desk. As I said earlier, Granville Dodge had a leak. I've got to get this plugged up. I want to see this soldier. And he brings, this is now the night of the 20th. Okay. And they start interrogating Sam. Where did you get this? Now he has this letter that says, a letter from E. Coleman to Braxton Bragg that was in his boot. They cut his boot open. They got it. They start interrogating him about that. And I go, okay, we know you're one of Coleman's scouts. And everybody knew they were hunting Coleman scouts at that time. That is the reason why they put these Confederate soldiers dressed as Confederates and put them out there going over the grounds, trying to find friendlies, trying to find people that were Confederate sympathizers. So Sam didn't tell them anything. In fact, Granville Dodge wrote later, and you can read about it in the Confederate Veteran magazine, that Granville Dodge even talked about how stoic and how brave Sam was. And he wouldn't tell them anything. So after interrogating him, they stuck him in the jail. Well, they had already captured some Confederate sympathizers. One of them was E. Coleman himself. E. Coleman, Henry B. Shaw, was in the jail. They didn't catch him with any paperwork. They thought he was just a Confederate sympathizer. Same thing with Billy Moore. Billy Moore was supposed to meet Henry B. Shaw in Campbellsville, and in Campbellsville, just outside Columbia, and he had wore his horse out. And E. Coleman tells him, you need to go get you a fresh horse. Your horse isn't going to make it. So Billy Moore lives right down the road from Elm Springs on Morrisville Pike. So he goes home, and he couldn't find another horse, so he had to rest his horse for 3 days. In the meantime, word had gotten to Sam that there was some papers that needed transport, so he had met E. Coleman there in Campbellsville. So here's Billy Moore in the jail. Billy Moore is in the jail, and Billy Moore is in the jail. And Billy Moore did meet up with E. Coleman, and he did get some papers from him, but it wasn't very much. And he had stopped at a friendly's house. And when he walked up to the house, they had a signal, if the lamp is on, that it's okay for you to come up. He rode up, and as soon as he knocked on the door, they opened the door. But who opened the door were Federals. They captured Billy Moore at that time. Now, Billy Moore only had a few papers with him, and he was sick, and he pretended to even be very sick. So they set him down by the fire, and he started throwing up because he was tearing off pieces of the paper and was chewing them and swallowing them. And he made himself sick, and he was throwing up, and he was throwing his papers in the fire. So they didn't catch him with anything. But he was there in the jail because he was of the age, and he was considered a Confederate sympathizer. And there was another one that was a that was a Brown that was in the jail as well. That was another one of Coleman Scouts. So when Sam walks into the jail late into the night, early of the morning of the 20th and 21st, the first people he sees are other Scouts.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. What the Federals did was they pretended to capture another Confederate. But what it was a Federal soldier. They put in a Confederate uniform, and they stuck them down there in the jail to hear what they would say and see if they were communicating.
Hopefully they talk.
Because, hey, according to, and this goes all the way up to the trial, if you read that, they talk, the man, the decoy they put down, he even talks about, they acted like they didn't know each other. All Sam did was sit in the corner with his head in his hands. He didn't even sit on his bunk. He sat in the corner of the cell on the floor with his head in his hands. And none of the men acted like they knew each other. Think about that. You have 4 men that knew each other that were acting like complete strangers. They all knew yes, sir. They all knew the situation. They were all taking care of each other. And imagine over the next happened because, over the next days, they brought Sam up and interrogated him, or they come down and interrogated him in the jail cell. Now imagine being these men that were in the jail, hearing all of this and knowing the deal that they were giving Sam. All Sam had to do was tell them what he knew, and he could go free. They even told him, we'll give you your papers, everything. You can be gone. Just tell us what we know, And all he had to do was go, there's E. Coleman. There's Billy Moore.
Yeah, he could have given them up.
He could have given them up, and he didn't. And they heard this. They heard all of this. So they put this kangaroo court together on the 25th. They tried him. They told him they were going to find him guilty, and they were going to find him guilty of being a spy. Now, he claimed, I'm a courier. He was fine with being called a courier. He was angry about being called a spy. He was not a spy. All he was doing was carrying correspondence for his army, for his country. That was all that he was doing. But they said that he was a spy because he was wearing a Federal overcoat. This is from the same people who admitted in the trial that they captured him by dressing as Confederates. So the hypocrisy of that is biblical, is all that I can say of that. So we'll escalate all of this. They have him. They found him guilty. They tell him on the 26th. They don't even have the guts to tell him. They ask his jailer, Private C.B. Van Pelt of the 81st Ohio. Private Van Pelt is the same age as Sam, around the same age of Sam. Sam is now 21 years old. And Sam wouldn't give up anything. Private Van Pelt writes an account to where he's telling Sam, tell them what they want to know. They don't have to hang you. They'll let you go.
Yeah.
And Sam might have even been thinking, well, if they're going to tell the lies they just told in this trial, they could still tell me this and still execute.
And still do it anyway. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So he knew that his days were numbered.
There's some famous words he said, Jason. I know we're kind of watching on our time too tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's some famous words that come during this time, right?
Oh, yes. It's during this time as he is being tried. Mm-hmm. We do know that it was supposedly he said this during the when he was being interrogated, when he told them that, I'm not a spy. Tell us what I had rather die 1,000 deaths than to betray a friend or my cause.
Yeah. He
said that when he was being interrogated, and he refused to speak. Well, we do know that he was found guilty. They tried him. They were going to hang him. They tell him, we're going to hang you in the morning. He writes a letter. Chaplain Young of the 81st Ohio comes and visit with him. He writes a letter. He cuts some buttons off of this to give to his family. And they sing On Jordan's Stormy Banks, which is Sam's mama's favorite hymn. They sing that. Now it is Friday, November 27th. Now about 9 o'clock in the morning, the drums start rolling. And it's that death march. And they ride up. They walk up to the courthouse, the picture that you seen earlier. And at that courthouse, yes, they're lined up. Sam's coffin is in the back of a wagon. They get Sam, they bring him up. They bring him out of that courthouse. The jail is in that courthouse. And he sits on his coffin on the back of the wagon. And he starts to ride east of town. It goes a quarter of a mile. When they shackled his legs, they tackled him, cinched him down very tight. And he asked Chaplain Young, can you loosen up my boot because it's digging in me? Chaplain Young leans down and cuts open a piece of Sam's boot, the piece that had already been cut open. So he just freed that back because I'm sure it was crimped up and had gotten tight on him. So he rides a quarter of a mile east of town. It opens up. The wagon rides in. Sam gets off. His coffin gets on the ground. They get his coffin off. They set it down, and he sits on his coffin. Now, he does something that is very Southern. He starts having a conversation with the soldiers that are around him. How's the war going? They start telling him everything that is happening, and he goes, well, sounds like the boys are going to have to fight the rest of the war without me. Okay. He asked them how long. They said about 15 minutes. Captain Chickasaw goes by that moniker. Captain Chickasaw is one of these that has heavily interrogated Sam. He rides up on Sam's horse with Sam's gun across the horn with the paper saying, Sam, tell us what we know you know, and you can go free. And we know that he says those words at that time because people hear it. Yeah. And they say he said it. He looked, and this is humbling. This is a young man, 21 years old, who had decided the fate of his life, and he had encapsulated that in his mind. And he says, I had rather die 1,000 deaths than to betray my friends and betray my cause. Then he turns and he looks at Chaplain Young and Private Van Pelt, and he goes, I'm ready. And they go up the steps. The hangman is there, and he tells the hangman, do not feel guilty about this. I have done my duty. You do yours. Wow. And they put a white sackcloth over his head. They put the noose around his neck. And about 10:15 on Friday, November 27th, they spring it. Yeah. The fall does not break Sam's neck. It takes him nearly 15 minutes to pass. Horrible death. Choking the life out of him. They left him to dangle there another 15 minutes before they cut him down and put him in his coffin. And they took him to Maplewood Cemetery where he was buried with other Confederates.
There's that location of the hanging site, Jason. You want to say something about that?
Yes, that spot was marked. The state of Tennessee owns that building. There are some artifacts having to deal directly with the hanging and with Sam in there. You can approach the city of Pulaski, and they will, if they're available, they'll go up and they'll open that for you, and they'll let you take a look. When you're facing it, if you'll look off to the right, was where the actual hanging site is. That would all that is there now is a stone marker that is marking the spot where Sam fell. But that is the hanging site.
Very powerful place to stop, Jason, and to know that story and to think about it and just have a moment or two of silence there, just thinking about that terrible day.
Yes, because he didn't, I don't have the words for what this young man did. I mean, we all know people who they would sell you out for nothing. And he and all of these men, including Henry B. Shaw and the men that were down there in the jail, they let this people say, well, they let it happen. No, all of these men signed up for this. They knew what the cost was. They knew what they were doing. Yeah. They knew what their duty was. And they knew that if any of them spoke, all of them were going to die. Mm-hmm. So that's the reason why they never said anything. And Sam took all of this with him to the grave. But we do know that he said those words right there at the hanging. And then he followed it up by turning around, looking at him and telling them, I'm ready.
Wow.
And they asked him, he goes, how long have I got? 15 minutes. And he strikes up a conversation, just like you and I are talking now. This is a young man who knew what his fate was.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's just humbling to think about it. So you're going to watch this sometime this week, or you're going to see it tomorrow night on the 18th. Mm-hmm. And, you think about where Sam is in this process. When you
Jason, as not to jump in on you.
No, but go ahead. If not, I'll talk.
Yeah, as our time is getting ready to wrap up this evening, let's mention, because we got a couple more photographs, let's talk about his burial site and his grave site there at his home.
Yes. And thank you for cutting it off, because I'll talk about this for a while.
No, very, very good story. Very good story.
Oh, yes. It takes 45 minutes to tell the whole story. But yes, you have Oscar there that's on the far right. And that, think about Oscar. Oscar was Sam's younger brother, and he rode with John Kennedy, who was the caretaker there on the farm, to actually go get Sam's body. He was 17 years old at the time. Imagine that. And that was done, I want to say, about 2 years ago, because now I cleaned that obelisk about 5 years ago, and it was just cleaned again just this year. We had a cleanup day out there, the ending day of August, and it was clean then. Yes. And that is at the Sam Davis home. Now, when Sam was brought home, like I said, he was buried in Maplewood Cemetery. The family went and retrieved his body. They brought him back, and he was buried across Stewart's Creek. Stewart's Creek runs through their property. Mm-hmm. He was buried in a cemetery across Stewart's Creek. The letter that he wrote to his mom and dad, the letter that he wrote was to his mom and dad, and it said, "Dear mother, I regret to tell you that I have to be hung tomorrow by the Federals. Do not grieve for me. It will not do any good." Mm-hmm. Then he goes into telling the kids how much he loves them, and he tells them where Pulaski is. And then he does a postscript, and he says, "Mother, Father, do not forget me."
Wow.
Now, Mama couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
So in 1966, the year after the war, when they were starting to get going again, remember, we were still under federal occupation.
Yeah, that's true.
At that time. We still had Reconstruction. But she had Sam disinterred and brought over and buried in the backyard, in the garden, so she could look out on the porch and look out the window and see his gravesite. Mother, Father, do not forget me.
Wow. Very powerful story, Jason. Very important site to go to if you've never been to Smyrna, and to the home and to his resting place. And as we wrap up, Jason, let's talk about years later, kind of the story kind of faded away somewhat. And then around 1900, you start to see that story come back to life. And one of those first monuments erected to his memory is in Pulaski.
Oh, yes. That was done in 1906. Sumner A. Cunningham was responsible for bringing the Confederate veteran to life. And that was after the SCV got started. Actually, it was the UCV.
Yeah.
He started doing the magazine for that. And that's when the story of Sam Davis took back off, because like John said, all of those stories had passed and it wasn't being talked about. And if you read those early editions, and from all the way up until the 1920s, you'll hear different people give their accounts. That one right there is on the Capitol grounds in Nashville. That was on the dedication of that. And John, I think
1909.
Yes, 1909. The one that was on the courthouse in Pulaski was 1906.
Mm-hmm. Here's some more. Of course, it was a very popular story at that time, the early 1900s, Jason. These postcards were sold all over the South.
Yes.
They were sold here in my local town, as you can see, just one of many that were produced.
Yes, sir. And at one time, there was a Sam Davis Hotel in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
In the entryway, there was a huge portrait of Sam Davis. And you can come down to the National Confederate Museum and see that portrait. That was on loan to us from the Sam Davis home. So, and that's the modern day picture of that from the Capitol, Sam Davis of the Capitol grounds.
Again, of course, the home is a nonprofit there as well. So
Yes.
folks that are interested in learning more about the home site and how to help preserve that story of the Davis family and Sam Davis, there's the website you see, samdavishome.org. Jason, they can become a member. They can volunteer their time and help out in many different ways.
Yes, and I actually have a membership that I put in here. You can join the Sam Davis Memorial Association. This membership, the monies are put to good use, and you can join at the different levels. You can go to the website that John had popped up earlier and download that. You can join online, or you can be old school and cut them a check and mail it in, whatever makes you happy.
Well,
but
Jason,
that's a great way to support the home. And the home is owned by the state of Tennessee,
mm-hmm.
although
mm-hmm.
they do not get any monies from the state of Tennessee.
Yeah, it's a board of trustees that oversee it, and then the Memorial Association is doing the everyday day-to-day operations.
Yes, and so your membership dollars go a long way, and you come into the site making donations. And if you're in the area, please stop by and see it. Like I said, you can, when you right up to the house to the left, you will see a stone there that with the tablet talking about that. Yes, that is this coming Saturday at 2 p.m. James Turner is going to be the guest speaker at 2 o'clock. He'll be speaking inside the museum. We have an auditorium. John was the speaker there a couple of years ago.
Very nice.
Did a fantastic job. And then they've asked me to do the graveside service. And I have done that now for several years in a row. They want me to talk about the full capture, trial, and execution. I apologize for it taking a long time. But the normal story, I told all of it one time, and because that's what they wanted, and it was 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's a big story, and you do a great job at telling it with the passion that it deserves too, and that makes it so much more touching and really reaches you even more. So,
and I was breaking it down day by day.
Yeah,
you know where Sam was on the 14th, where he was on the 15th, all the way up. And
Jason, he still is a hero to the South. He's a hero to our country. I know to me and you, we look up to him, and that sacrifice something we could all learn from.
Well, he's a hero to me. I think if we all of us followed the example that he did, and can you imagine you're going to be hung, and you strike up the conversation with the people that are going to hang you, and you're just chit-chatting, just like a Southerner would do. That's true. He's like, okay, this is the way it's going to be. It is what it is. And that was where he was. It is what it is.
You hear the phrases that are coined, be something this day and time, be a Sam Davis in the world we live today.
Yes, very much so. Because you'll never write out a friend. You would be the best friend a friend could ever have.
Absolutely. Well, Jason, again, a great story tonight. We do need to mention, of course, our sponsors this evening once again. Dr. Cummings, who can take care of you down in Mississippi if you've got especially knee pain. He specializes that and more. So Dr. Chris Cummings, we appreciate his sponsorship here of Tennessee Tuesday and SCV Chat. Of course, we went through all of our Patreon members as well tonight. So you can go to scvchat.com and learn more about all of the programs that you hear on SCV Chat each week. Of course, Tennessee Tuesday, we're here on a Tuesday night. Just a reminder, if you've been watching and listening tonight, this is a pre-recorded edition that we did on Monday the 17th to air on November the 18th. So again, we thank you for watching tonight. And Jason, a couple of things we need to wrap up here with Tennessee division-wise, some things that are going on. And one of those is the new Civil War Trails marker that'll be installed hopefully maybe before the first of the year in Union City. That's in Obion County, Northwest Tennessee, at the Unknown Confederate Soldiers Monument, one of the oldest monuments in the South.
Yes.
It's there in Union City. This one got removed a few years ago. It didn't have, you have to have a sponsor for these. Well, the Discovery Park of America has helped redo this and the sponsorship. So it tells about Camp Brown, which was a Confederate training camp there in Union City. And then it has a little mention of the Unknown Soldiers Monument, and it will be at the monument there in Union City. Also, the General Hatton Camp in Lebanon was in the Veterans Day program, or the parade, I should say. And you can see Tom Wood and all his guys in the camp gathered to march in the parade. We've got another photograph here that was sent in to us. And there they are. And looks like was well responded to. I saw some other photographs and some people were clapping. So that's always encouraging when you get there, and folks appreciate you being a part of it. Also, the Hatton Camp has just finished up their first weekend of their annual turkey shoot there in Lebanon at the Wilson County Fairgrounds. Here's a few photographs of some of those in attendance this past weekend. Looks like a good turnout, Jason.
Yes, it does. Looks very good.
And there's one more
I've heard
photograph.
a lot of good things about it. And I've seen pictures of people carrying meat around. You know,
that's it.
Yes, sir. One guy won bacon.
Love it. It also continues one more coming up on December the 6th, Saturday the 6th. They'll have one more date of that there at the Wilson County Fairgrounds in Lebanon. And a couple of more here that we want to show. James Patterson put these photographs out there. This is the monument there in Fayetteville on the square. They've recently cleaned it. The camp maintains it and helps keep it clean. But I believe the county did some work there, some folks in the courthouse, and got the old bushes that were kind of overgrown. They've taken those out and cleaned up around that monument. And if you've never been there, definitely a site you want to go see. Also, the camp there in Fayetteville, the John R. Massey Camp 152. You know, last week we talked to James Patterson about the camp there and the work that's going on. They were going to be a part of the Host of Christmas Past. And here's some of the photographs from that weekend there. They had their booth set up on the square by the monument, and then there, some of them doing a little reenacting there. And I believe James Patterson is portraying John R. Massey there.
Yes, so, I think they had a cemetery walk, did they not?
They did. That was a part of it. So some good things happening across Tennessee. A couple of events, Jason, we want to mention before we wrap up here tonight is the Champ Ferguson Memorial coming up on November the 29th. So you can see the details about that event. Also coming up is the Christmas party for the Bradford Rose SCV camp there in Morristown, the Sam Davis UDC. That's on December the 13th. You can see the details at the Longstreet Museum. And also one more, Jason, I want you to mention on here. There's another event coming up at the Sam Davis home.
Oh, yes. You know, I'm going to call it a Victorian Christmas is what I'm going to call it. This, you know, Christmas now is celebrated very differently than the way it used to be. When it was, you know, we've all heard the old stories and all that of how they did it, you know, and people shot off fireworks and shotguns and everything else on Christmas morning. And you can go to the Sam Davis home and experience what is called a Victorian Christmas. And it's nothing like what you see nowadays. And that's just how much things have changed. Come to the National Confederate Museum and come tour Elm Springs, and we will show you some dolls from that time frame, and they're haunting looking. They're
yeah.
not like the ones that you see now.
Definitely.
And if you catch me there and I'll do your tour, I'll tell you about how I terrified one of these ladies by the doll.
Yeah,
Well, I'll go and tell you real quick. It wasn't intentional. When you go upstairs, right there, you can go take a stairway to go up into the attic. Well, we're in the process of cleaning out the attic and going to redo it. And probably going to end up making it part of the tour. But people had a tendency to go straight up it. So what I did was I took one of those dolls, and when you open it, you have several steps, and then you turn. Well, this woman just walks up and she flings that door open, and she's going upstairs. And as soon as she does, this doll's looking straight out at her.
Oh, no.
And she lets out a blood-curdling scream.
Oh, no.
And it wasn't intentional, but it's just, but what they did was they took that doll out, and it's over in the museum now. So it wasn't intentional. I just put it there just to be a prank. I wasn't expecting to terrify people.
Yeah, old dolls and old houses. Yeah, sometimes they don't mix too well, do they?
Boy, I tell you, but the dolls and all that back then were very haunted.
Yeah, they were.
Christmas it was a haunted time. If you watch those old Christmas shows, they were haunted.
They very well.
So that's what you'll see at the Sam Davis home, and you can become part of a Victorian Christmas.
Well, Jason, it's been a good program tonight. We've got to wrap up and get this recording saved, get it ready to air. You'll be watching it on Tuesday, the 18th, as we pre-recorded this. Again, we thank you for watching. We'll be back with you live next week, should be the plan, on Tuesday. Yes. So we hope you'll be with us before Thanksgiving. Maybe we'll have a special Thanksgiving show and get you to jump in with us on the chat and kind of interact with us. We'll talk about some of the many things we're thankful for, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the Thanksgiving time during the war. What it was like for some of the soldiers. So it'll be a good program next week. Again, Jason, thank you for being with me tonight. I know we kind of put this together pretty quickly to do this recording, so we had a program for you. Again, thank you, and we look forward to being back with you next week on Tennessee Tuesday on SCV Chat.
And I just want to let everybody know that we both have things to do tomorrow night. I've got my camp meeting. And I know, John,
I've got an event that I'm doing the emceeing for. It's an 80th anniversary dinner for our Rotary Club.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
Yep. So that's going to be a fun time. Good food. I know you've got your camp meeting, and we'll be back with you live next Tuesday. Again, thank y'all so much for watching. Have yourself a great rest of this evening.
Yes, sir.